Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to another Indie Game Friday, where each week I take a look at a different independent computer role-playing game. Except this week it's more a sort of casual game with the oh-so-commonly referred to RPG elements. Developed by Radwinter Software and published by TinyBuild, Dungelot, Shattered Lands was released back in 2016 and is sort of a sequel to a popular Flash game. I could have sworn that I'd covered an entry in the Dungelot series before, but apparently I did not. Dungelot is one of those games that tries to abstract the traditional dungeon crawling loop of exploration, fighting, looting, and character improvement to a far more casual style of play. It does this by reducing dungeon levels to a sort of Minesweeper-esque grid of clickable tiles. When you start a new game of Dungelot Shattered Lands, you are given a character selection screen, although at first you only have access to the Paladin. Other characters are unlocked through in-game events, and you can readily scroll through them to see which characters may eventually become available and when. Aside from the Paladin, there's the Vampire, the Witch, and the Bard. Once you've selected your character, you're given an overview of their starting stats. Each character has some basic attributes: health in the form of hearts, attack damage, then armor that is decreased before health is. There's also a crit chance, an elemental avoid chance, and an attack avoid chance, each of which gives you a chance to not reduce armor when you're hit. Each character also has some passive skills that give a chance for something to happen when something triggers in the game, both good and bad. Then there are skills, which are unlocked at higher levels as you pick items up from the dungeon. Skills are active attacks or effects that must be gathered up in-game. Finally, each character also has a weapon and armor as gear. Once you've selected a character, you are put right into the first dungeon, along with a brief NPC-directed explanation of what to do. On the dungeon screen, your total food, gold, your mood, and what floor you're in are displayed at the top. Each dungeon level, you consume one food, and gold is used to purchase things both inside and outside of the dungeon. Your mood is decreased or improved through various items and effects in the dungeon, and may have an impact on how well you do in combat. Clicking on the character in the bottom of the screen opens your stat sheet, where you can see your basic attributes at the bottom, as well as your level, active quests, and general stats such as accuracy, dodge chance, crit power, fire resistance, ice resistance, shock resistance, poison resistance, and the chance to have a loot drop. As you unlock more throughout the game, other things may be seen in the bottom as well. Your default stat of current health, attack, and armor may be shown below, as well as the charge level, which is gained through certain acts or through sacrificing equipment, and is used to unleash powerful attacks and boost skills. Your skills are shown to the right of that as you unlock them. In order to use a skill, you must collect a scroll with that skill on it for one use, which are dropped from enemies and other items on the field. You may only hold a maximum number of these scrolls, shared amongst all of your skills, so stockpiling them becomes counterproductive at a certain point. There's a bag where you can review your inventory and craft items. Each character may equip a weapon, something in their offhand, a set of armor, as well as an artifact. They may also carry a very limited number of spare items and consumables. This may include crafting materials, and the crafting button pops up an interface to turn these into usable items. For instance, sulfur can be turned into a set of enchanted firebombs. You do need the recipe for an item before it can be crafted, which you find in-game, and there's only so many recipes available. In terms of gameplay, there are a few main modes. The basic game mode is the dungeon crawl, in which you are presented with a grid of tiles at each dungeon floor. These tiles represent areas that you can explore. One will be a door with a lock that represents the exit. In order to exit a level, you first have to unlock the door with a key that you discover on one of the tiles. You can only start exploring a dungeon from the lit tiles, and may only uncover tiles that are adjacent to those you have already uncovered. Some tiles may start with icons on them representing tile effects. These can range from blessings to traps, and generally start counting down once you've uncovered them, remaining until the countdown reaches 0, at which point they disappear. At any time you click on a covered tile, it is uncovered, revealing either an empty square, an item, a hazard, or an enemy. Items such as coins, food, and consumables must be clicked on to pick them up. If you click on a tile with a tile effect, the effect happens immediately, whether it be for good or for ill. Uncovering an enemy actually locks the tiles immediately adjacent to it, so you have to deal with the enemy before uncovering those tiles. Enemies on the map generally don't do anything once uncovered unless they have a specific trait that allows them to do so, which enables you to decide what order to take them on. Each enemy has their basic health and attack damage shown on the screen, but you can right-click them to open up the enemy information panel, which shows more detailed information. their attack and damage, any elemental weaknesses they may have, as well as any traits they have, such as immunities to certain effects, special effects that take place passively, and so on. This can be useful with some enemies. For instance, the zombie, which increases its damage anytime another creature is killed, you kind of want to target them first. It should be noted that when an enemy's damage is represented by an icon that's other than a sword, that means that it is an elemental attack. Combat is very basic. You click on a target and it gets to go first. Its damage is done to your armor, reducing it unless you have something that prevents it or makes it miss. If all of your armor is gone, then the remaining damage goes directly to your health. If all your health is taken down, you are kicked back to the area map after a brief summary screen, and that particular run in the dungeon is over. If you live, you then do your damage against the enemy's health. Using certain items or skills doesn't actually count as being in combat, so in certain instances you have the opportunity to blast an enemy down with skills and items before you engage it, which can be incredibly useful for some enemies. You do not need to kill every enemy on a level, although clearing a few may be helpful for additional loot. Rather, your objective is just to find the key and move on. This can be helpful to remember on longer dungeons where you might be pressed for resources towards the end. Improving your character can be done through three main ways. First, there's gear and certain consumables that can boost your individual stats as you play. Permanent gear, such as weapons or armor gained through the blacksmith, which I'll cover in a moment, stay with you, while temporary things must be found during each individual dungeon run. Then there's the Tomes of Knowledge or Learning, which can use to permanently boost one of your character's basic attributes. This is effectively the way to level up in this game, and they may be a reward for completing a particular dungeon. Finally, once you reach a certain point, you get access to the mansion, and purchasing decorations and trinkets provides a permanent boost to some aspect of the game, whether it be your attributes, your basic types of attack, your gold collection, attack hit rate, etc. This bonus persists across all characters that you've unlocked. Some dungeon levels may contain beneficial effects, such as stone guardians that automatically damage enemies you uncover, and some may contain stores where you can rest and purchase gear. Some levels may contain dungeon challenges or puzzles as well. At the bottom of any particular dungeon is a boss, which is mostly just a stronger enemy that must be defeated before completion. Once you exit a dungeon, successful or not, you are placed on the area screen. There are multiple areas in the game, each represented on the greater map screen, which basically represent the acts of the game. These areas are similar to the dungeons, where you uncover and explore adjacent tiles, but they're less simple grids and more actual maps. Icons on this screen represent treasures, individual dungeons, and other events. You may review or change your hero from this screen, visit the mansion to purchase things, and visit the armory to make new equipment. You may also check your overall statistics here, showing what artifacts you found, various other game elements, such as how many times you've died, how many enemies you've killed, and so forth. When it comes to selecting a dungeon from the area map, you are given details on how far your last run took you if you've been in there before, as well as a description of the dungeon, how many floors the dungeon has, and what sort of threat level it poses to your current character, as well as any reward for beating it. You may defeat each dungeon separately with each hero, which can allow you to boost your new heroes by running them through old dungeons. Between acts, you may also go to the main map screen, which allows you to revisit old areas that are in prior acts. So far as gameplay goes, Dungelot Shattered Lands is much like its predecessor, effectively a sort of Minesweeper the RPG style game. It is a casual game dressed in an RPG costume, although, to be honest, I've seen some games trying to be more serious RPGs that had even lighter systems than this. There is a sense of progression in terms of stats, gear improvement, and what sorts of things to invest in regarding the mansion and the like, but it's not got anywhere near the sort of depth that you really want from a proper RPG. Graphically, Dungelot Shattered Lands is a sort of cartoonish, colorful presentation that seems like it'd be more at home on a mobile device, although this does call back to its roots as a sort of casual time killer. The music and sound effects selection isn't bad at all. I guess the best I can say about this is I don't find anything particularly annoying about the sound design, which is saying something for casual games. The writing and presentation is meant to be a sort of semi-goofy and inoffensive kind of general humor-based thing, which again calls back to its casual gaming roots, and I can't really object to that. It's done in a way that it seems designed to have a light appeal to all ages without really going for any one particular group, and I can respect that, although something, similar to the inoffensive humor of Garfield, this means it's probably not going to really grab anybody either. Dungelot Shattered Lands has one solid strength behind it, and that is it is a well-put-together casual game that has just enough RPG elements to make it interesting to play for brief periods of time. And that, it can be pretty decent in that regard. Unfortunately, as you progress through the game, some of the dungeons have so many floors that these quote-unquote brief periods of play sort of fall apart. This is a game similar to Pixel Dungeon or the like, where I would recommend it mostly to people who are looking for a game that they can grab, play on the go, and put down at a moment's notice. Which means that you're probably going to be wanting to look more for its mobile version than its desktop version, since it is available on mobile devices. Incidentally, the mobile version is more reasonably priced as well, so keep that in mind. I would definitely not be looking for the desktop version at anything even closely resembling its full price, although again, your mileage and cost tolerance may vary. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to wrap it up here. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday, Dungelot Shattered Lands. As always, I'll toss a link to where you can get it below. If you like what you've seen, remember to leave a like, comment if you've got any feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content. And I think next week I'll turn back towards proper RPGs again. Until next time, take care and goodbye.